Welcome to our third Blender tutorial, where I'm going to touch on some of the most basic modeling tools within Blender. Okay, the first thing that you might want to do with this cube here is to scale it. Well, to do that, you just hit the S key, S for scale. So that lets you scale the object up and down. Then, what you might want to do next is to rotate it. R for rotate. You can just rotate. Basically, R just rotates perpendicular to the viewport. So whatever way you're looking at the object, it'll rotate perpendicular to the way you're looking at it. Now, if you want to rotate the object in more of a trackball type mode, you just have to hit R, and then hit R again, and you will rotate the object in trackball mode. Now comes the slightly confusing one. If you want to translate your object, you would think that you would hit the T key, but the T key is already taken. It's the Tools palette. So, instead, Blender uses the G key. G you can think of for grab. You grab the object to translate it. So the G key translates. Now, if you want to constrain your movement to one of the primary axes, the X, Y, or Z axis, you can just hit the G key for grab, and then the axis you want to translate it on. So in this case, I hit G and then Z, and it translates on the Z axis, or G and then X, or G and Y. It'll translate just on the Y axis. Of course, this also works for rotation. So if you want to rotate on the X axis, you hit R and then X. If you want to rotate on the Z axis, you hit R and then Z. And if you want to rotate on the Y axis, you hit R and then Y. Now, this method works completely with scale as well. Now, there's a universal paradigm within Blender that holding the Alt key and hitting a command should do the opposite of that command. So, if I hit Alt and the R button, it reverses the rotation, or gets rid of it. Alt plus S resets the size, and Alt plus G should send the object back to its origin. Okay, up to this point, we have been working in object mode and working on object level data. You can see that right here. Now, if we want to actually change the mesh data, you need to go into edit mode. Now, the shortcut to move into edit mode is the tab key. You can just toggle in between object mode and edit mode. So, all meshes are made up of vertices, edges, and faces. To select these individual elements, you can use these buttons right here. By the way, A selects all, or A deselects all, so that toggles between the two. So, there's face mode, edge mode, you can select different edges, and vertice mode, you can select different vertices. Now, another hidden feature we have in Blender is if you hit Shift and left mouse key, you can actually select multiple selection modes at the same time. Now, vertice and edge mode together is one of my favorites, as if you select two edges, you now have a face. Now, the next tool I'd like to show you is the extrude. That is on the E key. You can see I've just done it right here and made my two things. So we'll go into face select mode here, hit E, and drag, and it'll drag your things out. Now you can really quickly make new geometry this way. Then you can change things using those keys we already know, in this case the S key. So extrude it out and scale it. Now we can rotate it, extrude it, and scale it some more. Now you can see by just using these rotate, scale, extrude, and translate, you can really make some interesting objects quite quickly. Okay, now for one of my favorite tools. It's great for adding detail. It's on Control R. It's called Loop Cut. You can Control R and cut loops wherever you want more detail. It's pretty easy. Control Tab, by the way, brings up a quick select mode to switch between vertices, edges, and faces. So I use that all the time. And then, so now I can add detail by extruding. So these are all your basic modeling tools. Control R to add those loop cuts. The last thing that I'd like to point out with the loop cut tool is the use of the scroll wheel. So you can hit Control R and kind of mouse over where you want that loop cut to be, and then use the scroll wheel to add multiple cuts all at once. Now this can be a great way to add a lot of geometry when you need more detail in a specific area. So that's pretty much our basic mesh modeling tools. There are a couple more things that aren't really modeling tools, but that you might like to know, and I'll go over that very quickly. Now, if you're coming from another 3D package, you might miss your widget. That can be selected right down here. You have to have something selected before it'll actually show up. So there's your widget in the center. As you can see, you can turn it on or off. And you can just grab those little handles and move along the various axes, or grab the center to freeform. Pull that around. You can select these buttons down here to go into your scale widget or your rotation widget. Now once again, you can shift select those. So now I have all three widgets in one. Now I personally don't really like the widget on there at all, and so you can actually hit that button to turn it all off. I personally don't like it. Now one other tool I'd love to touch on is your proportional editing tool. In Max and Maya, I believe this is called soft selection. It's basically a fall-off curve that you apply to your mesh. So you can select a single vertice, and then you can see the fall-off curve is there. Right now it's very small. If you use your mouse wheel, you can change the size of that fall-off curve. Now you can see how you can move the mesh. Now this is a great tool for organic modeling, so you can just like pull arms and muscles out of the mesh very easily. And you have different fall-offs, so if you want to create a very random look, you could just choose random, and it'll, as you can see, it kind of pulls the vertices out very randomly. I'll hit Control Z, undo that. And that about does it for our basic modeling tools. There's a whole bunch more, but we'll get to those in future tutorials. Thanks.